Hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My name is Joey Solis. I'm the chairperson for the Global Logistics Center here at Laredo College. We're honored to welcome you to our logistics lecture speaker series held here at our historic Fort McIntosh campus, a site that's been a cornerstone of education and progress for generations. This series is designed to connect our students and community with industry leaders who bring real-world insights into global trade, logistics, and supply chain innovation. We sincerely thank you for your we sincerely thank you for being here today. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Daniel Covarrubias. Dr. Covarrubias is the director of the Texas Center for Border Economic and Enterprise Development at the A.R. Sanchez Jr. School of Business at TAMIU. He's a leading voice in cross-border trade, logistics policy, and regional development. He also oversees the TAMIU Logistics Living Lab, a cutting-edge facility using emerging technologies to boost trade efficiency and drive innovation in international logistics. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Daniel Covarrubias.
Test there. Hey, good morning, all. Good morning. So let's start off with a question this morning. What would happen if customs professionals disappeared tomorrow? I'm talking about brokers, entry writers, HTS analysts, dispatchers. What do you all think would happen? Exactly, right? Chaos. Well, for starters, all these professionals working here at Port Laredo and other ports worldwide, well, they run smooth operations, right? There's 3.1 million US dollars in cross-border trade every minute that keeps moving because of professionals like you all will soon become. Uninterrupted border flows and reliable ETAs and shared prosperity for Laredo and the region. But if everything disappears, well, we'll have this collapse that you all said, right? So it's total paralysis, thousands of local jobs at risk, broken supply chains, and factory line stoppages, massive economic losses across North America. But the real question isn't whether we'd survive without all these custom professionals, right? The question is whether we're ready for the next era of cross-border trade. And that next era is going to be more digital, more automated, and more demanding of the skills you all are learning. So today we're going to talk about from border basics to logistics and Laredo's role in the next era of cross-border logistics. I'm Daniel Covarrubias, and I'm going to guide you today over the next 40 minutes on looking over some subjects. Why you matter and why Laredo, right? I mean, I'm sure all of you are in this and thinking, well, what's my future going to be? Well, we're going to get a glimpse of what's going to happen to you all. How a shipment actually crosses, right? I mean, I'm sure you're learning that in your classes, but we'll see the process of how things work here in Laredo. We'll talk about smart borders. I mean, technology is everywhere now, right? So let's talk about smart borders. And we'll go into AI, which is another thing that's impacting the world as is, right? We'll talk about AI and we'll talk about what's going on now. Let me see just a quick show of hands of who knows somebody, maybe a family member or friend that works in logistics or transportation. Well, that's what Laredo breathes, and that's how Laredo lives by, right? So we're going to go into all of these things in the next 40, 45 minutes. I'll be sure in the end to leave some space there for Q&A, and hopefully we can make this a dynamic session. So let's start from the big picture to our border. We're going to go over some numbers. USMCA, does everybody know what USMCA is? the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. That's what makes this border so important. But USMCA has tilted U.S. trade toward Mexico and Canada. So we'll look at North America, and then we'll bring it down to Laredo, and we'll go over numbers on what these impacts are. So this graph basically represents the last, and I know the numbers are small. I'm going to share the presentation, and you all be able to get a copy of the presentation. So don't worry about taking pictures of slides. I mean, feel free to do, but I'll be glad to share the presentation. So this slide basically shows you the last 30 years of U.S., Mexico, and Canada, of North American trade. In 1994, there was $343 billion of total trade between North America. And you might say $343 billion, that is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. But just to give you an idea, and we'll see it in some slides ahead, just in between, just through Port Laredo, currently $350 billion crossed. So the equivalent of what was crossing in 1994 now only crosses through Port Laredo. So trade, as you can see, has exponentially grown in 30 years. And that's because of NAFTA, which was the North American Free Trade Agreement, which you can say was the start of free trade and the free trade movement. And you can see the impact it had, right? I mean, you see there's some slowdowns and diminishing of trade. I mean, usually with crises like 9/11, the dot-com bubble burst, the global subprime financial crisis. But you also see that this region is very, very resilient. And what do I mean by that? Well, you see there in 2009 that the global subprime financial crisis hit in 2008. In 2009, trade went down 24%. But the next year, in 2010, it grew at 25%. So it recovered, right? So every spike that you see down, the recovery is very fast. So North America is a very resilient, and right now we're up to $1.6 trillion of trade. So I mean, it's grown by more than 5 times in these 30 plus years. So keeping on with North America, let's take a look at what North America represents with trade. So keep in mind, as I just showed you in the past slide, it's been a relationship that has grown over 30 years. So it's been an economy built in 30 years. So what have we established, or what have we reached or gained in these 30 years? Well, 30% of global GDP. North America represents 30% of the world's economy. So just imagine of the size of and scope of what that represents, right? It's $1.6 trillion of total trade. Remember, it started in 1994 at $349 billion, I think we see. We're at $1.6 trillion of total trade. And 501 million consumers. That's the size of the market here in North America. And $3.1 million of trade per minute. $3.1 million of trade per minute through Canada, the United States, and Mexico, right? Right now, in this time that I've been talking, maybe $50,000 have just gone across the borders. Just keeping in mind of how much money it is that transits across these borders. So North America's global advantage. Let's see who we compare to, right? As an economic bloc. So the USMCA region, these numbers, we just saw them, but just keep in mind that we're not alone in the world. I mean, we compete with other economic blocs, such as the European Union. The European Union has less consumers than we do, 450 million consumers, and it represents 13.4% of the world's GDP. So, I mean, it's more or less the same size, but it's less than half of the economic impact that it has on the world, the European Union. I mean, it's a very highly regulated single market, but I mean, still, you see the importance of North American trade there. ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, well, that's 693 million consumers. It's bigger than North America, but it represents 7.2% of global GDP. And another big one is RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which includes China. So that's a huge market. It's 15 countries, 2.3 billion consumers with a substantial economic potential and market. It's also more or less the 30% that North America represents. But again, 3 countries, Canada, the United States, Mexico, 500 million consumers versus 15 countries and 2.3 billion consumers. So there you get an idea of the size and the importance of North America. And you're living right in the middle of North America here in Laredo. So let's take it down to why Laredo and why now, right? Why do you think Laredo matters? Any idea of why Laredo matters so much, or why did you all get into this program? Go ahead, yes. Exactly. Yeah. It is, and we're gonna see exactly what you said. We're gonna see it on a slide right now. So why does Laredo matter? Well, let's take a look at some numbers. Laredo, 28% of U.S. trade with the world crosses through Laredo. 28% of the U.S. trade with the whole world crosses through Laredo. 22% of U.S. trade with Mexico and Canada crosses through Laredo. And U.S. trade with Mexico, 40% of U.S. trade with Mexico crosses through Laredo. So imagine that. I mean, 40% of everything the United States trades with Mexico crosses through one city, and that is Laredo. So, I mean, numbers-wise, that's 800. Well, total U.S. trade with Mexico is $800 billion. $300+ billion cross through Laredo. So, I mean, like you said, everybody knows somebody that works in logistics, transportation, and so on, because that's what Laredo lives for. I mean, on the Mexican side of the border, you have 2 important economic sectors. One of them is the trade, just like here in Laredo, and you have the manufacturing sector. In Laredo, we don't have a manufacturing sector. We have trade, we have logistics, we have a big governmental sector such as CBP, Border Patrol, and so on. But the logistics sector is what predominates here in Laredo, and it's because of these numbers. Let's take a look at the top 5 ports of entry. I mean, and these numbers are from 2023, but 2024 numbers are very similar. Right now in 2025, in these first 6 months, they changed a little bit, but the idea is the same. So the top 5 U.S. ports of entry in 2023, and I want to say in 2024, Laredo ranks number 1 of not just land ports of entry, of total ports of entry. I mean, when I go and give these talks elsewhere, the first thing when I talk of ports of entry, the first thing that many people say are like, they talk about seaports or they talk about airports. Rarely somebody that's not from a border town talks about a land port of entry. They don't get that, right? But you see a ranking like this, and you see that Laredo is the top port of entry, period, in the United States. And it gives you an idea of what that dimension brings, right? Over airports such as Chicago O'Hare, over seaports, important seaports such as the Port of LA and Long Beach, other airports that are there, such as JFK, Newark. Houston's not even in the top 5, and it's an important port of entry as well, right? So that gives you an idea of the dimension of Laredo. Again, 2024, Laredo again ranked number 1 in total ports of entry. 2025, the first 6 months have been up and down. We're going to talk about tariffs. Tariffs have really hit hard, and you see there the value that Laredo has. And let's take it, well, here you see the ranking over the years of how Laredo has come along in this top ports of entry. For the past 2 years, it's been the number 1 port of entry. But let's compare it with other ports in the world, right? And this is based on some research we did there at TAMIU at the Texas Center, just to get an idea of where Laredo ranks compared to other important, especially seaports, right? So all of these are seaports, top seaports in the world, and we based it on throughput, what goes in and comes out. Obviously, seaports, the measure of seaports, it's not trucks like we measure here in Laredo, right? The measure in seaports, it's containers, right? And so they're called TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units, right? So because containers and seaports are 20 feet, here usually you see different types of truck trailers and sizes. So basically what we did is we converted trucks into containers, and we got that Laredo ranks ninth in the world compared to all these seaports. I mean, and you see huge seaports there, and it's even, again, above LA and Long Beach with other ports such as Shanghai, Singapore, and so on. So that gives you, again, an idea of the magnitude of why Laredo and why it matters, right? So trust me that you all are at the right place. You're in the right sector. You're in the right career path, and the jobs will be there when you all graduate. Truck crossings, again, these are, like I say, 2023 numbers, but I mean 2024 still is the same trend. 2025 has been varying, but important here, this is total truck crossings. Yes, this is total truck crossings in Laredo. I would say we have days of 20,000 truck crossings between both bridges, taking into account that there's World Trade Bridge and there's Colombia Solidarity Bridge, right? We have days of 20,000 truck crossings. That's crazy to just imagine what 20,000 trucks look like, right? So through World Trade Bridge, more or less 16,000 trucks crossing a day through World Trade Bridge. Through Colombia Bridge, between 3,500, 4,500 trucks crossing a day, and that gives you those numbers. This year, it has gone down year to date. I would say from January to June, it has gone down about 2.5%. And you say, well, 2.5%, maybe that's not a big number. I mean, but it does matter when you're talking about 20,000 trucks crossing a day, when you're talking about the city of Laredo, part of its budget depends on the tolls that these trucks pay to cross the bridge. So it has its impacts, right? It has its impacts. So a 2.5 decrease, it's an important decrease in numbers. So continuing with numbers, and some of these slides, again, I'm going to go a little faster than others, just because of the time we have, and there's a lot of information that I wanted to cover. More than 5 million annual truck crossings, more than 2 million annual bus crossings, and more than 1 million annual rail car crossings, right, through Laredo. We see a lot of sectors crossing through here, 60 billion plus annual auto parts trade, 23 billion in new autos that cross through here, 14 plus billion in computer, cell phone, electronics, and 4 billion in annual produce. So you see that it's a very varied degree of sectors that do trade through Laredo. And that keeps it interesting, right? I mean, because many ports, they sort of specialize in some things, right? I mean, you can say Laredo's specialty is automobiles and the whole logistics supply chain, right? Auto parts go into Mexico and finished cars come from Mexico, and that's but you see that other sectors do matter as well. So let's bring it down to the work line, right? I mean, we've seen how trade is surging and why Laredo matters. Now let's talk about how things move across here in the border a little. Let's bring it down to how things work here, and more importantly, so you can get an idea of where it is you're going, right, and what's out there after you finish your associates and so on. what's out there here in this logistics sector. So let's map it. I mean, this that you'll see here, it's a cluster map. A cluster you can say is an amalgamation or a group of related industries and how they work together. And so let's try to understand the Port Laredo logistics cluster map. Well, it all starts with logistics operators. And what are logistics operators? Well, we have customs and logistics brokers, custom brokers. That's one of the main areas here of how trade works, right? So, but you also have warehouse and storage facilities, distribution centers, and you also have the other part of it, which is transport companies. So that's the heart and soul of this logistics cluster map, right? That's what makes Laredo work. Then we have infrastructure operators. And what are infrastructure operators? Well, we have two main ones. We have Aduana México, ANAM, la Agencia Nacional de Aduanas de México. And on the US side, we have CBP, Customs and Border Protection. So those are the two main infrastructure operators. Those are the ones that get clearance done, and they operate the facilities that are at the bridge and so on. So we have our logistics operators, then we have our infrastructure operators, and then we have service providers. Well, all these companies need these service providers to work. So you have gas and diesel, consultants, load and pick, maintenance, software, logistics centers, infrastructure and maintenance. So just on those service providers, I mean, there's easily more than 15,000 jobs that are there, right? That work with these service providers. And then you have related clusters, manufacturing clusters. I just said that on the Mexican side, there's manufacturing. So you have manufacturing clusters. You have also automobile clusters. You have hospitality and leisure clusters. All of this works as well. I mean, when you're working in these areas and you have, let's say, visitors that come to Laredo from global companies, because there are global companies that work here. Well, you need that hospitality and leisure and so on, right? So this is how the cluster really works. And then at the bottom, you have supporting industries such as government, well, the U.S. federal government, the Texas, the city, the different state and local and federal governments. Also on the Mexican side, you also have academia. Well, you have Laredo College, you have TAMIU, you have all these high schools, and you have also the Tecnológico de Nuevo Laredo, Universidad Tecnológica de Nuevo Laredo, all those academic, but that's what's bringing the talent into this cluster, right? Then you have financial institutions, all these financial banks and so on. And you have business associations, Laredo Economic Development Corporation, U.S. licensed custom brokers, all Laredo Motor Carriers, all these associations. So this is what makes the cluster. So as you see, when you come into studying this, you might say, where can I get a job? Well, I mean, there's a handful there of opportunities that you all will have when you graduate, right? So how does Port Laredo work? How do operations work here? And this is two-sided, right? I mean, this is U.S. exports to Mexico. And first we have that an American driver leaves a trailer cargo at a U.S. shipping company, right? He comes, he leaves the cargo at a U.S. shipping company, and that American driver heads back, right? Usually loaded. He heads back into the United States. So then we have what it's called a transfer or drayage driver come in, right? And he takes the cargo and moves it usually to a Mexican customs agent's office, right? In the same United States. And that transfer driver returns empty to his yard. And then another transfer driver returns for the pre-classified cargo. And that transfer driver, I mean, it's a very, very important part of how logistics works here, the drayage component. So that transfer driver is the one that crosses the American and Mexican custom inspections and delivers the cargo now to a Mexican trucking company. So once it's at that Mexican trucking company, a Mexican driver arrives and picks up the load, and that Mexican driver leaves with the cargo to the interior of Mexico. So you're not seeing here what many people not from the border think, that a U.S. driver would come and he'll just cross into Mexico and take the load and take it all the way to its final destination. You don't see that. I mean, it's not a complex process. I mean, you see it very well detailed there, right? But that's how it works. I mean, you have drivers coming, dropping, you have that transfer component in the middle, and then Mexican drivers taking the cargo, right? And for the other part of it, well, I mean, it's basically the same, but the other way coming around, right? You have a Mexican driver leaving the trailer or the cargo at a Mexican transport company at Nuevo Laredo. Then you have a Mexican driver returning with or without cargo. I mean, usually they return loaded. But then the transfer or the drayage driver comes in, gets that cargo in Nuevo Laredo, crosses Mexican customs first, crosses U.S. customs, and then delivers the cargo now in Laredo at an American logistics company. The transfer driver returns with or without cargo. I mean, transfer drivers usually do, I don't know, 2.5 crossings a day, more or less, on average, depending on bridge wait times and so on. And then an American driver arrives at this logistics company, picks up the cargo, and that American driver leaves to the U.S., to the interior of the U.S. The change here, as compared to the other one we just saw, is that there are some Mexican drivers that have what's called a B1 visa, and those Mexican drivers can cross directly into the United States and take the cargo into the interior of the United States. It's very minimal. I think it's between 10, 12% maybe of the total trade that's done here comes with a B1 visa. So that you don't see it. I mean, you don't see U.S. drivers ever going into Mexico and taking the cargo into Mexico, right? So that's one of the differences here. I mean, but now there's some regulation that has been in line for quite a while now, which is that Mexican drivers that come into the United States, they must speak a valid amount of English, right? But right now it's being enforced. It's been going on for 30 plus years, I think, but this is the first time that I think it's really being enforced. So that changes dynamics a little of which Mexican drivers with B1 visas and so on can come into the United States and into the interior of the United States. But there is that option. So you were talking about the geographical advantage. And I think this map represents it very, very clearly. We're right in the middle of everything, right? I mean, of everything coming in from the Pacific coast of Mexico into ports like Lázaro Cárdenas, Manzanillo, and so on. I mean, they still come up through Laredo. The whole Bajío, San Luis Potosí, Querétaro, Guanajuato, they still come up through. The whole industrial part of Monterrey, Saltillo, Ramos Arizpe, all that part, they still come up through Laredo. So the geographical advantage, it is very, very important because Laredo's right in the middle of being able to supply the eastern coast. I mean, the mid and eastern coast, I mean, the middle part of the United States and the eastern coast of the United States, which is where big population centers are, right? So the geographical advantage is very important, but there's also something else, this logistic cluster that we just saw. So in a 35-mile cross-border radius on both sides of the border, you'll find over 500 custom broker firms. You'll find in excess of 500 freight carriers, more than 300 warehousing and storage facility. And this supports the livelihood of over 30,000 individuals employed in this binational logistics cluster, right? So that the knowledge that's created by these companies, that's what runs Laredo. I mean, these companies, many of them local companies that have grown throughout the years and so on, that's what makes Laredo special and what makes Laredo grow. And what's going to keep making Laredo grow is technology, which is something that we're going to get into right now with the presentation. So let's see how we can convert this scale of what we've seen that Laredo is into more efficient and speedier border crossing, which is what everybody wants. So that's where the concept of smart borders comes in. And smart borders refer to the use of technology and data to facilitate the movement of people and goods across the border, right? That's so basically trying to bring technology into the border and how it can be used to make things more efficient. So it has its benefits. It increases the efficiencies. It reduces wait times. It reduces costs. But it also has challenges. Implementing smart borders, well, it requires money, right? I mean, you need money to be able to deploy these technologies and so on. But it also has another big challenge, which is data privacy concerns, right? I mean, you're getting all this data from people, from companies, and so on. That you need to have data privacy and cybersecurity issues that you have to take care of, right? So there's different ways that smart borders are being applied, both by the U.S. and Mexico. CBP has the 21st Century Customs Framework, right? And this is basically the initiative that CBP has to implement technology at the borders, and it's enhancing facilitation and security through 21st century processes, defining customs and trade responsibility for emerging and traditional markets, ensuring seamless data sharing and access, mostly between companies and the government, employing intelligent enforcement, and protecting and enhancing customs infrastructure. And one of these examples is CBP has recently installed what's a game changer here at the border, and they're called NIIs, and they're non-intrusive inspection points. So it's basically this new technology X-ray machine, which is sitting more or less at the middle of the bridge, where now all trucks coming into the U.S. cross through these non-intrusive inspection points. So now you're getting CBP is getting visibility of more than 90% of cargo. I mean, everything that's going through there, the driver still can say that they don't want to cross through there. I mean, more likely than not, they're going to be sent to secondary and so on. So that's one of the uses of technology. They also have ACE 2.0. ACE is the system that CBP uses to manage entries and get entries into the United States. So they're working on ACE 2.0. They're working to make it use all these exponential technologies such as blockchain, AI, and I think that's something that's going to be very impactful to what CBP is doing. And on the Mexican side, you have ANAM, and they have what they called, I think they changed the name now, but they started calling it the PIRA project. So the PIRA was a Proyecto de Integración Tecnológica Aduanera. So that's how ANAM was coming into using technology at the border as well, right? It was part of their Aduana Digital, Digital Customs initiative, and aiming the same, to facilitate, streamline the entry and exit of goods at custom ports, using technologies such as RFID readers, QR codes, and having a monitor center oversee the automated customs clearance process. And that's great. The US is working on smart borders, Mexico is working on smart borders, but we then get what I call the digital wall at the border, right? And when everybody talks about a wall and building a wall and building at the border, I mean, I already tell them we already have one, right? And I think it's more impactful than the other type of wall. And this digital wall basically is that these systems that I was just talking to you about, that both CBP and ANAM are working on, well, they have a lack of integration between them. They don't have communication protocols between them. They don't have technological communication protocols that make them share information. Don't get me wrong, there's a great communication between CBP and ANAM at a local level. Officers between both institutions communicate on a daily basis. They have monthly meetings, and the communication at that person to person is great. The thing is that systems are not connected. And that hinders everything, right? Because you're reducing efficiency, you're having missed opportunities, and you're fragmenting your data ecosystems, and you're being vulnerable basically to cyber threats. So having all this technology come up and not communicating, I mean, and there's other things that come into it, right? I mean, a lot of the issue is on trust. Do you trust your partners to handle, again, data privacy, information from all these companies and so on? Do you trust them? So the thing is that hopefully, and a little further, we'll talk about a proposal we're putting on the table to try to work on this digital wall. So hopefully we can get that connected and we can get that sharing of information and so on. So let's look now at a skill that multiplies everyone that's here in the room. Let's start talking a little about AI, right? And how AI is changing the game for everything, but let's keep it related to logistics and cross-border processes. So we developed a term at the Texas Center there at TAMIU that we call logistics. Obviously, it's a play on word between logistics and technology, but this is what we use to be able to research the impact that exponential technologies are having on cross-border trade, logistics, supply chain, and so on, right? So logistics, we developed the framework for it. And the framework has three sides to it. The first side is the transport, one of the sides of logistics processes. So in transport, we identified different technologies that impact the transport aspect of cross-border trade. Autonomous vehicles and drones, Internet of Things, 3D printing, cargo blimps, all of these are exponential technologies, right? So these technologies basically create more efficiency on the transport side of logistics processes. And then we have the handling side of it, right? All these warehouses, logistics distribution centers, and the technologies impacting them, some overlap. But we have other technologies here like artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, robotics, automatization. And basically what these technologies are creating are cost reductions in the handling of logistics processes. And then the other part of it, or the third side of this triangle, is very important here to the border, and it's the customs clearance process, right? So basically, we have other technologies, the big one here being predictive analytics and blockchain, where you can get traceability and where you can get real-time access to data throughout the whole supply chain. And what you create with these technologies here is speed. So this framework is our logistics framework, and this is what we use to research what these technologies are impacting. But right now, let's concentrate on one of these technologies, and it's AI. How many of you are using AI in your daily life? Show of hands. That's good. That's good. I'm worried for the ones of you that are not. Seriously, it's never too late, but it is becoming late. My students, they usually, I teach in the Masters of Information System, and I teach a lot on digital transformation and so on. And they ask me, well, now that I graduate, will there be a job for me? Or is AI going to replace us? And my usual answer is like, at least in the short term, it's not going to replace us. Midterm, long term, I think we're all gone. But who is going to replace you is the person that knows how to use AI. So please, everybody, if you learn anything from today, is that go out there, download all those apps, start playing with them, and it's for the best for all of you. So let's talk about AI in cross-border trade and three changes that matter. The first one, it's impacting forecasting and decisions. So more accurate demand and ETA forecast, anomaly detection, faster audits. So who uses it in this? Well, entry writers, HTS analysts, compliance. I mean, it's impacting everything. You now go to ChatGPT, Claude, whichever one you want, and you can get a tariff classification out of it. Is it going to be correct? More than likely, I think so. Is it going to get rid of classifiers? No, it's not, because they're the experts. But they can be much more efficient with them. If before they could, and I'm just throwing out a number there, if before they could classify, I don't know, 20 entries a day, Now they can easily classify 100, 150 entries a day. I mean, that's the efficiency that these tools give you. The other one is for process acceleration, document extraction, and validation. First time right. I mean, you can get it right the first time. So filings with cleaner data trails. Again, for entry writers, compliance people, operations people. You get documents, they scan them for you, they get all this information for you, and it's making processes less manual and less time consuming. Routing and cost, dynamic routings, less driving time and fuel, so fewer penalties. So for dispatch officer, traffic officer, and operations people, right? I mean, they're getting to a point where they're predicting weather, they're predicting route analysis. They're getting really good at those three processes that matter here on cross-border trade. Here's one example of AI used by one of the big companies, right? To make it a little more relatable. UPS has a system that's called Orion. And this system, well, it basically has dynamic route optimization. Because of this system, UPS does not allow their drivers to do left turns. I mean, they figured out that left turns create longer routes. They waste more gasoline. So because of the system, there's no left turns done by UPS. So greater accuracy in delivery times. Now everybody, I don't know if you use the UPS app, but now basically in the last part, I mean, I know UPS tells you'll get your delivery by 9 p.m. or whatever, but you go into the app and now you can track the driver where he is and so on, right? So it's done a savings of 100 million miles and 10 million gallons and improved customer experience. So that's one example of how AI is being used by UPS. This other example, I'm gonna skip it, but again, you'll have access to the presentation. So let's go a little into what I call the AI-centric workforce. What is it that we're looking at with AI and how people are using it and how people are going to go into the labor market with it? So it's basically three sides to it. The AI producers, the AI utilizers, and the AI-aware people, right? So the AI producers, well, they're the ones building all these things, right? They'll be responsible for conceptualizing, designing, building, and seamlessly integrating AI into business processes. At first, when I wrote about this, I want to say I wrote about this maybe a year and a half ago. And I wrote that these were the engineers, right? That these were the brains, the engineers that were going to have to code all these things. And well, forget about that. You don't need an engineering degree now to build something with AI. I don't know if you've all had the opportunity to code. I'm not a coder myself, but I want to say that in less than 2 months, I was able to develop this software as a service app that I was thinking about, and it's impressive. I mean, you have a senior programmer in your pocket, and it costs you $20 a month, right? So, I mean, you don't need to be an engineer now to be able to code with AI, but those are the producers. Somebody still has to think about these things and put them out there, right? So those are the producers. The utilizers, well, that's all of us basically that are going to utilize AI to create these efficiencies and to make business processes better, right? So these have to have another type of use at businesses. I mean, you have to know a little more about business model and business processes to really get into understanding where I can make you more efficient, right? So translating the theoretical potentials of AI into tangible efficiencies and strategic advantages. And the last one is AI-aware individuals, at least people that know that AI exists, right? I don't think we've gotten to the point where everyone in the world knows that AI exists, like they do know that the internet exists, but we're going to get there, right? And at least be aware that there's a lot of fake stuff that you could do with AI and not to fall for it. It's getting harder and harder, but at least that people know that AI exists, right? I'm going to give you five keys to implement AI, and this works for anything in your daily life and in businesses and so on. begin small. Don't try to solve your life with AI. I mean, begin with small practical steps that you can really see through with them, right? Choose the right partners. There's tons of people. Everybody on TikTok is now an expert on AI, and every influencer now thinks they're experts on AI. I mean, just choose the right partners, right? I mean, invest in data. Data is what drives these things. So the cleaner the data is, the better. Identify specific business issues, and prioritize data security and privacy. So we're getting to the end of this, and like I said, I want to leave space for questions and any comments you might have, and so on, so we can make this a little more dynamic. So what's going on now? I mean, the world has changed so much in the past 6 months. At least the cross-border trade, international trade world, and the world in general, right? But let's keep it to this area, right? So you've all heard about tariffs, I think, right? I mean, I think everybody except those living under rocks have heard about tariffs, right? But I mean, tariffs are there. We have tons of tariffs right now. 10% tariffs, global tariffs on everything. We have Mexico, Canada used to have 25% tariffs. Now that Mexico has 30% tariffs, I should have scratched that out and put there that Canada has 35% tariffs now. And really, when I give these presentations, I sometimes give a disclaimer at the beginning saying that by the end of the presentation, maybe what I said was not even valid anymore, right? So China had 125%. Now they have 30%. They're negotiating down now, I think, to 15%. The 232 sectoral tariffs, they started at 25% for steel and aluminum. Aluminum now has 50%. There's still 25% on autos and auto parts. We still have USMCA exemptions, thankfully, so Mexico and Canada can benefit from those. Tomatoes, there was an agreement there. Now Mexican tomatoes have 17% tariffs, which is kind of counterintuitive, taking into account that I think 70% of tomatoes in the U.S. that come to the U.S. are from Mexico. European Union has 30%. I think the UK signed an agreement for 15%. Brazil has 50%. So there's tariffs everywhere. There's tariffs going on everywhere. So what does this get us? The most expensive international trade in 30 years. That's true too. We started the presentation seeing how NAFTA and USMCA have made trade grow. A lot of that was because of free trade. Now we have the most expensive international trade in 30 years. So what are we doing? We are trying to put a blueprint for a more competitive North America. We're trying to be propositive. We're trying to use research to show the path forward to what we call USMCA 2.0. That's the only, well, to me, that seems to be the only solution to keep North America being competitive and keeping North America growing. So we've put together 3 proposals. The first one is called the Binational Customs Agency. Basically, we're proposing that the U.S. and Mexico merge their customs agency. Something like the International Water Treaty, right? Something like, or the NAD Bank, something that can work where CBP and ANAM can join forces and can have more communication and have a joint customs office, right? This was published by the U.S.-Mexico Foundation. I wrote it with Jerónimo Gutiérrez, who was an ex-ambassador from Mexico to the United States. Then we wrote the case for a North American industrial coordination strategy. Basically, we're saying that we need to take advantage of the United States prowess in research, development, innovation, all these technologies. But we need to take advantage of Mexico's manufacturing base, and we need to take advantage of Canada's natural resources as well, and put together a industrial policy that is for the whole of North America and not 3 different industrial policies. I wrote this one with Jerry Schrebel from IBC and published it through NASCO. And there's an upcoming one also that's called the North American Digital Infrastructure Coordination Initiative. And this one's basically saying, hey, we need to work on taking care of that digital wall, right? We need to integrate our systems. We need to let technology talk together. And more importantly, we can't let the United States run away with AI. I mean, I know the issue right now is the United States versus China, and that's very important that the United States wins that a race with AI, but they can't get to a point where they turn around and Mexico and Canada are way back there, because that's not going to be beneficial for North America. So there's two paths, one choice, and no time to waste. What's at stake? You already saw it, $1.6 trillion in annual trade, 17 plus million direct jobs that were created because of NAFTA and USMCA, 501 million consumers, 30% of global GDP. That represents North America, so the future of manufacturing. On what side? We have fragmentation with the whole tariff volatility. We have weakened supply chains, loss of competitive advantages. There's more than one, well, we actually identified over 4 million jobs in the United States and over 4 million jobs in Mexico that are exposed to, and just in 15 states that are exposed to North American trade. And China's filling the gap everywhere, right? They're in Latin America, they're in South America, so they're happy to fill that gap. On the other side, we have integration through the proposals that I just presented to you all, right? The shared security framework, global competitiveness, keeping that leadership and innovation, continental resilience. So basically we don't have to choose between security and prosperity. With the right framework, we can have both and lead the world as North America and showing them how it's done, right? And I'll close with this for you all. Your next steps in shaping the future. You're already on the right track. You're here. You started the program. You're doing it right. You're on path to a good job in logistics and so on. So three basic things that I'll close with for you all. Explore further education. Continue your journey as much as you can, right? I mean, I know you can do a certificate here. I know you could do a semester. I know you could do a 2 years associate's degree. Continue if you want to TAMIU. TAMIU has a transportation, international trade logistics bachelor's degree that they'll take credit for the 2 years here, and you can continue your path there. They have a master's degree in it. I mean, always further your education as much as you all can. Embrace AI, really. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, I hope you were just shy and didn't want to raise it, but you're late to the game. Really embrace it, take advantage of these opportunities. Right now, if you all are just studying and not working, and even if you're working, don't just graduate from LC with your associates. Please graduate from LC with your associates and take a certificate online. There's a ton of certificates at Google, OpenAI, Claude. Everybody has certificates. They're free. So take one. Why? Because when you get to the job hunt and you get to apply for those jobs and you say, well, I have my associates, or I went again and got my bachelor's, well, that's good. And it's going to get you in the door for an interview. But the people that are going to really stand on top of those resumes are people that have other certificates and stackable credentials that give them more experience. And finally, take a small first step, right? Think about one small project or internship. Don't wait till you graduate. I mean, start looking. They were telling me here that they have internship opportunities for you. Take advantage of them. Go and start experience and learning and things like that from the real companies, right? I mean, you're in the mecca of cross-border trade and logistics. You're in Laredo. You're already blessed to be here. There's tons of companies like we just saw. Take advantage of it and try to get your foot in the door with them. There in that website, you can download all the reports I talked about. There's my LinkedIn. I post a ton of stuff on LinkedIn. There's my email. Thank you all for your time. We have time for Q&A. Hopefully there's some questions. Again, I'll make the presentation available and you can send them to all of them. Hopefully there's some questions. Let's make this more dynamic. Thank you all. Anybody? Hold on. Yes. Why? What is the main reason behind the tariffs that are going on? I don't know. I don't know his thinking. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see how they're framing it, that other countries were taking advantage of the United States. I don't really necessarily mean it like that, and I'm going to try to give you a very, very brief example of it. The size of the market of other countries matters. I mean, it doesn't matter if the United States wants to sell more to Mexico. If Mexico doesn't have, one, the size of the market, I mean, it's smaller than the United States. The earnings in Mexico are much smaller than what earnings in the United States. So people don't have the purchasing power to buy more stuff from the United States, right? And that happens in a lot of countries. So I don't see that reciprocal tariff thing working, right? Now, the thing is that uncertainty is what takes a big hit, right? I mean, I don't necessarily, if tariffs are justified, fine, right? I mean, and if you could put a tariff on something, it's justified. Companies will adapt to it. They'll figure it out. They'll see all these ways of adjusting their supply chains. But what they can't adapt to is that every 30 days you're changing the playbook for them, right? You say, well, this tariff, and then no, well, not this, or put it at this percent, or 90 days. And companies, so you're seeing a lot of slowdown in investments because companies can't adapt to those uncertainty costs.
So yeah, I had a question in regards to AI. I know we briefly touched on it here and talked about the implementations more so with like the border and stuff like that. I have a basic understanding of AI, but as far as how they're implemented in logistics companies themselves, like just one way that I thought of, and I think it was in your slide, was as far as like the like dispatching, for example. I know it's a pretty simple process. You go in, you reach out to these companies and look for loads that you want to transport and the pay rate and stuff like that. But I don't know if you can give a different example on how AI would be implemented in the company itself rather than at our borders.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it can be implemented, and not just for logistics company, for any type of sector. And again, that's when I said that it's important to also come at it from small steps, and more importantly, from knowing the business processes. But I'll give you an example. Customer service. How many chatbots now do you talk to? I mean, how many? I guess the question is, how many humans do you talk to when you go through customer service? Hardly ever, right? I mean, it's everything is either you do it through a chat or you get this automated person talking to you that you don't know if it's a person or not. I mean, that's one example. Sales. How hard was it where you had to craft all these emails and put together these proposals to send to prospective clients? I mean, how fast can ChatGPT do that, right? And just give you all these marketing. How fast can you create content for social media with these things? I mean, they'll give you the content, they'll give you the calendar, they'll give you everything. I mean, now you can automate it, them uploading things for you automatically. And you can go on like that for any area of companies, basically in any sector. So again, the thing is that you do have to understand the business process first to be able to see where you can better generate these efficiencies with AI. Yeah. Anybody else? There's one back there.
Good morning, doctor.
Yes.
I just want to look a little bit back towards, where Laredo started 30 years ago and now where we are today, 30 years later. And my question is, how do you think over the 30 years we grew, especially, with cities with major advantages over us, for example, like LA, Hong Kong, Chicago, New York? How do you think we've grown to surpass these cities with major advancements over us?
Okay, that's a good question. The first one is geographic advantage. I mean, that has been around for forever, right? You saw it there on the map that we're right in the middle of it, right? I mean, but geographic advantage doesn't give you everything, right? And we've been talking about our geographic advantage for the last 50 years, right? And we were blessed with that just because of where Laredo is. But the second part is, like I was saying, the ecosystem that has formed here of all these companies and the collective knowledge that they bring. Again, talking about clearing 20,000 trucks a day is crazy. I mean, any way you see it. I mean, if these companies didn't exist here in Laredo, forget about the geographic advantage, right? So that's the second step, the ecosystem that has been formed by all these logistics, transportation, customs brokers, and so on. So the collective knowledge, it's hard that you find it anywhere else. And that's why you see all these big multinational companies installing here in Laredo and so on. Now, that collective knowledge is because of many people like you. I mean, many people that are working in these companies now that form that collective knowledge started like you all and got an associate's degree or got a bachelor's degree, and now they're working here. But the third, and I think the key for Laredo, is that we be the leaders that develop these logistics, that we be the leaders that think how AI can be used in companies, that we generate those startups that are thinking about these technologies. When I talk to custom brokers in particular, you see many custom brokers that have been around for 100 years. I mean, centennial companies and so on. And they're very much set in their ways, right? I mean, they've been successful for 100 years. I mean, nothing rattles them, right? And they've seen what success is. But I think now more than ever is the time when a new startup can come in without the overhead, without the expenses that these companies have, and really disrupt these markets, right? So I think Laredo has to build that generation of startups and things like that generates these technologies.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Doctor, I want to know what is your opinion about if Laredo need a new cargo bridge or need just a new technology in the actual bridge?
Oh, I mean, I think infrastructure, we've been waiting for it for 20 plus years, right? The last commercial bridge that was built in the United States was World Trade Bridge, and that was in 2000. So it's been 25 years that we've been waiting for infrastructure. I think infrastructure is always going to help. I mean, technology will help you create these efficiencies, but the thing is that it's hard to get technology into infrastructure that's already here. So what I'm excited about is that these new bridges coming up, say 4, 5, even the expansion of World Trade, Puerto Verde in Eagle Pass, all these commercial bridges are needed. But I would want them, or at least because we work with some of them, and what we try to get them to go for is to start the project not as a traditional commercial bridge, right? To start it as a smart port of entry and to get technology ever since the beginning. And I think that's what's going to impact and generate these efficiencies more. So I think infrastructure is always needed. I mean, we've been waiting for it for a while. I'm glad they've been approved, and it should help alleviate all this congestion and wait times and so on that we have. Yes, but smart infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Marco. Okay.
Disculpe, lo voy a hacer en español,
Órale.
Daniel. Oye, aquí hay muchas mentes frescas.
Uh-huh.
Es normal que en las empresas existan cegueras de taller, es en todos los organismos.
Uh-huh.
¿Qué tan factible es que las empresas y los organismos de aquí de Laredo y de Nuevo Laredo abrieran sus puertas a visitas guiadas de los muchachos, para que los muchachos con una mente no contaminada, no porque sea bueno o malo, simplemente porque no han estado en esos ambientes, puedan ver cosas que la gente que ya está embotada en la empresa ya no ve? Eso es normal. Entonces, ¿qué factibilidad? Tú has estado en el lado empresarial, en el lado académico, en una institución educativa donde yo participé hace algunos años. Eso, cuando los muchachos hacían las visitas guiadas y hacían cuestionamientos, veía yo en la gente de ingeniería donde abrían los ojos y decir, Chihuahua, esto no lo habíamos visto. ¿Por qué? Porque es normal, siempre la roca se presenta. Y en ese sentido, ¿Qué posibilidades hay de hacer esas alianzas, no nada más en Nuevo Laredo, digo en Laredo, Texas, sino en Nuevo Laredo? Hablas de nuevos trabajos que se vienen, pero la pregunta es, ¿los centros educativos están preparándose para poder soportar y que esas mentes jóvenes lleguen a cubrir esas posiciones, o se va a tener que esperar que vengan de fuera a cubrir esas posiciones porque los centros de estudios no están migrando a esos sentidos? Son de varias preguntas. Pero
Ya,
bueno.
vamos, ahí nos las aventamos una por una. La primera, yo creo que las alianzas existen y aquí me lo platicaba Joey de varias alianzas que tiene aquí Laredo College con empresas locales e inclusive con empresas multinacionales, porque estoy de acuerdo contigo. O sea, lo mejor que pueden hacer es que vayan a visitar las empresas y que conozcan los procesos y esto y lo otro. Y pues todos tenemos sesgos, o sea, estamos metidos en el día a día en todo tipo de trabajo, que viene alguien de fuera y te dice, oye, pues pícale ese botón, chivo, pues ni lo había visto, ¿no? Entonces, eso siempre ha funcionado. Te lo digo que aquí Laredo College lo hace, TAMIU también lo hace, de que genera estas estancias y estas visitas y demás. Yo creo que mucho tiene que ver con las empresas también, que no a mucha gente le cae bien que vaya un chamaco, una estudiante, que vayan y que les digan, oye, pues sale así. Bueno, pues ya esa es otra cosa, ¿no? Pero creo que sobre todo la facilidad que tienen para las tecnologías y esto y lo otro, y por eso los empujo a que las usen, porque sí, mucha gente igual y no lo ve. La segunda pregunta, yo creo que las instituciones están preparando a los alumnos pensando en estos cambios, ¿no? O sea, te lo digo de una manera muy personal. Yo en mis clases usen inteligencia artificial para lo que quieran, ¿no? O sea, de veras, ya en lo que soy más estricto es en que cumplan con fechas, en que cumplen, no les doy chance de entregar tareas tarde, de entregar nada tarde. ¿Por qué? Porque la vida no funciona así, porque el trabajo tampoco funciona así, ¿no? Pero sí quiero que utilicen las tecnologías que quieran. Es más, se deberían de poder sacar un 100 en la clase. O sea, ya es más difícil no sacarte un 100 que regarla, ¿no? Entonces, yo quiero que lo usen, yo quiero que aprendan. ¿Por qué? Porque, como les digo, las empresas van a esperar que lo sepan utilizar. No porque les van a pagar más, no, porque les van a exigir que hagan más trabajo y que sean más eficientes y demás. Entonces, yo creo que las instituciones, a ver, siempre hemos hablado de que las instituciones educativas son burocráticas, son lentas en adaptarse a los cambios, pero yo creo que mucho tiene que ver con los profesores en particular y cómo ellos ayudan. Entonces, en mi caso, te digo, es algo que estoy empujando a los alumnos siempre a que utilicen estas tecnologías, a que se preparen. Acabamos de escribir ahí un artículo entre el decano ahí de la Facultad de Negocios y yo, en donde ya pues, la Escuela de Negocios de TAMIU está pensando en estas nuevas oportunidades, ¿no? En qué viene, ¿no? Yo lo pienso mucho, tengo 2 niñas chiquitas. ¿Cuál va a ser el mundo de ellas, no? O sea, así, ¿qué trabajos van a existir? O sea, no tengo ni la menor idea qué trabajos van a existir cuando les toque a ellas, y es algo en lo que pienso mucho, y creo que las instituciones sí lo están haciendo, y no necesitamos nadie que venga afuera a decir, sobre todo en el tema de logística, transporte y comercio internacional, el tema está aquí en Laredo. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's being broadcasted. Okay. I think the other point to make with your question, if I may answer it in English, and then I'll try to answer it in Spanish, or Daniel can help me, is the immigration issue. No todos tienen la oportunidad de ir y venir todos los días, o ir a ver una empresa en Nuevo Laredo y compararlo a una empresa aquí. No es igual. And so that ability to now look at the immigration situation that we're in today also adds another layer to some of the issues that we're facing with our students. Now, good, bad, or indifferent, it is what we have to deal with today. I'm not taking a stance on the immigration situation, but I know that for some of our students, it becomes either a transportation issue, an immigration issue. It does become an issue. And so ideally what we want to provide in our partnerships, as Joey and I have discussed many times, the opportunity to give our students to go and visit current things. I think there's another layer to that, to your question, is the ability to make sure that the security of the work that's being done in the different agencies, in the different empresas, is also maintained. And so that level of security today is very different than it was 5 years ago. And then what I hear all the time is you're graduating these young kids with all these great ideas, and companies are so used to doing certain procedures in a certain way that our students have an opportunity to try to engage in and support different ideas in how to manage things more efficiently. And so it's not just about training the students today, it's also about training the current employees at the different agencies where they are today. So I just needed to add that because there are a couple of other issues that we have to look at in preparation of our students. So thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I don't know how we're doing on time. Digo, yo encantado, pero are there more questions? Yes, le seguimos.
I have a question, especially since we have a lot of students here. What are those high demand, high wage jobs that you're currently seeing in the transportation and logistics here locally? And what are those jobs, like you were saying earlier, that maybe they're not here yet, but they're coming, and that we can better prepare our students for those jobs?
That's a really good question. I think there's especially in the logistics sector. I mean, you'll find job postings from all type of areas, right? From forklift drivers to warehouse managers to dispatchers to account managers, sales reps, all of that sort of stuff. Traditional jobs. High wage, I mean, I think the thing that most of these companies give you is a path to growth, right? I mean, and that's what you should look at. I think you should look at more the company maybe than the job, and see if the company can give you a path to grow. Because I mean, yeah, truth be told, everybody wants to graduate and be a director but that's not the reality, right? I mean, so you have to see what companies can give you that valid path to grow. Now, the jobs that are not here yet, I think a lot of has to be on how AI settles down a little. I think where we're gonna get to eventually, we're gonna get to a point where the development is, I mean, the development curve is just on a rise right now. It's going to plateau before it goes on a tremendous rise again, and we get to artificial general intelligence and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're going to see that plateau, and I think that's where we're going to see the jobs that we're not thinking of yet at that plateau. But I mean, to answer your question on how you can prepare them, it's by letting them use what's available right now, right? And pushing them to use the technologies that are here right now, and learning about machine learning and learning about artificial intelligence, and using those tools, and letting them think in their projects that they have to do for their classes and so on, how they can implement those tools in the businesses that exist right now. Yeah.
Okay, this is
Diana?
will be our last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Good morning, Danielle, and thank you for this great presentation as always. I know you touched on transportation and Laredo as the largest land port for focusing on trucks. There's also rail and there's also air. Can you touch base a little bit on that? And what is your opinion of the transnational railway that may be impacting commerce that they're talking about, you know, that transnational rail that is going to be coming, I think, from Mexico into the United States and all the way to Canada?
Well, of course, rail is important for Laredo as well. We saw there in the numbers more than 1 million containers crossing through Laredo. Laredo is the #1 port of entry for rail. It's because rail is measured by rail cars and rail containers. I think Laredo is the #1 port of entry for rail cars, and the number 2 port of entry for rail containers. So yes, there's a tremendous importance there as well. The airport has its advantages. I mean, I think we've seen the airport grow with its cargo facilities and so on, more for just-in-time deliveries and things like that. The whole transnational, Kansas City Railroad is now Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad, and it runs from Mexico all the way to Canada. There's another merger on the table, which is Union Pacific with Northern or BNS. It's two of the big ones. I think it's Union Pacific and BNSF that are talking about that. I mean, I guess those global mergers. The thing is that they can all merge. The thing is that, again, and that's where the geographical location comes into. Laredo will always be important for that multimodality of rail, trucks, and the airport as a very, very distant third. But it's nice to have that option of multimodality in one city, right? Yeah. So we close.
Okay, so let's give him a round of applause, Dr. Daniel Covarrubias.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
I think excellent information, very insightful on what's going on in Laredo. He gave me a little panic attack when he showed the slide with all the tariff numbers and everything that's changing. Thank you for that. I'll remember it all day.
Yes.
But if you have any questions, you can stick around maybe a couple of minutes afterwards.
Yes.
If you maybe want to talk to him, we have a little discussion, we'll be here. Again, thank you for joining us today. And we do have a little
Thank you.
gift for you as our token appreciation for joining us today and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you, Joey.
And we look forward to maybe having you back again soon, and maybe talk about some other things other than getting the the kids interested in what Laredo is, how important it is. I know a lot of them coming here as first-year students don't understand how important it is to the economy, and we really would love to have you back.
Cuando quiera.
Okay,
Gracias.
thank you. A round of applause again. Thank you,
you.
everybody. And with that, we'll conclude our logistic lecture speaker series. And everybody have a great day. Thank you.